What's up everybody, it's me Murdock, and today I'm here with a review for the latest horror film directed by James Wan, Malignant. The film follows Madison, a woman who begins to have a series of horrific visions that show people being murdered by a supernatural serial killer. She soon finds out that the events that she's witnessing are actually happening in real life, and she tries to figure out who the killer is and how to stop them. I'm gonna start things off by making something extremely clear. I love James Wan. In my opinion, he's one of, if not the best horror film director of the modern age. He has started off 3 separate giant horror movie franchises by directing the first installments of Saw, The Conjuring, and Insidious. All movies that I absolutely adore. Then he's gone on to flex his directing skills by creating some very entertaining installments of giant Hollywood blockbuster franchises like Furious 7 and Aquaman. I've enjoyed just about everything that the man has done, but when I found out that he was returning to the horror genre, I couldn't help but find myself extremely excited to see what kind of tale he was gonna bring us this time. So now we have Malignant, and if I'm gonna be honest, this movie starts off pretty rough in my opinion. I could tell that Wan was trying to lean into a more campy feel pretty early on in the movie. But for me personally, I thought that the first act of the film was a little bit too campy to the point where it was kind of laughable and not in the best way either. There's some extremely hammy acting right off the bat and a very generic feel to the first kill or two that wasn't really impressing me in a way that I thought a James Wan movie would. There's also some really strong choices in the score and the soundtrack that leads to some really jarring musical transitions in between scenes. The whole vibe of the movie just felt very strange for me for a good chunk of the first act, and it kind of turned me off. However, as Malignant moves along, the movie does find its footing. It keeps the same cheesy attitude, but it all clicks into place in a way that makes it feel more organic and less distracting. It allowed me as a viewer to really move along with the story and embrace the campiness rather than being turned off by it. The acting, the kills, even the score got better as the movie went along. It was kind of crazy to see this glow up happen in real time. Now in the film, there's this whole investigation aspect to it. They're trying to find out who the killer is. And as the movie went along, I legit caught myself being like, damn, I'm kind of really getting into this. Like, I found myself actually becoming invested in the mystery and the plot. But I kept thinking to myself, like, why did James Wan choose to go down this route with the movie? Why did he go for the campiness rather than playing the whole thing dead serious? And then the ending happened. I'm not gonna spoil this movie for you, but it has a completely bonkers final act, and the whole thing just came together for me like the final piece of a puzzle. The cheesiness throughout the entire film lets you know very clearly that it's not taking itself too seriously, so that when everything is revealed at the end, you can fully suspend your disbelief and just go along for the ride with this wild concept like it's some sort of fucked up roller coaster. I feel like most movies that go for high concepts are sometimes hard to get behind because they take themselves too seriously, but this one did the exact opposite, which was kind of a genius move in hindsight. And even though I didn't realize it in the beginning, it allowed me to embrace the craziness of it all by letting me know from the get-go what kind of movie it was. And to top it all off, it was something extremely original that I had never seen in a horror movie before. And that's what I love about James Wan. He's always giving us these really unique stories like Insidious, in which it's a fresh and new tale in an already overcrowded and often redundant genre. And Wan just expertly directs these films to leave his own stamp on them. Even in the rocky beginning of this movie, the directing is still high quality. And from then all the way to the end, he's consistently doing interesting stuff with the camera, and it's never too distracting. It just adds to the atmosphere of the film in such a stylish way. There's so many cool shots throughout this film, and I won't spoil them. I will say though that the visions that Madison has consistently throughout the film are some of my favorite moments visually speaking. Just with the way that the background changes behind her as she's transported to the crime scene, and then the killer reveals himself, it's just so cool. Now, the acting across the board, on average, I'll say, is fine, but it can be a little jarring sometimes, because the performances will range from genuinely good to extremely hammy, and there's not much in between. I wish there was a more consistent decision throughout the film with how campy they wanted the actors to be, because, like I said before, the beginning of the movie goes for it a little bit too much, and then the second act kind of finds the perfect balance for it, and the acting kind of suffers from the same problem as well. But the driving driving force of the whole movie really is the story, because even when the film suffers from some questionable tonal shifts, the plot was still consistently engaging for me. Also, I think the film did a good job with the clues that it was giving to the viewer in terms of the investigation that was going on. Basically, as soon as I kind of figured out what was going on, they revealed it in literally the very next scene. Like, no joke. That's a personal experience though, and it really added to my enjoyment of the film. Some people may figure out everything from the very beginning and it might not shock them, but even for me, when I finally put everything together and then they revealed it, that shit still got me good. Now, Malignant isn't a particularly scary horror movie, but it is a fun one, and it is just straight up bananas. This movie swings hard, and whether it hits a home run or not is 100% gonna vary from person to person. I can easily see people thinking that this movie is so stupid and hating it, and I understand why. But I want those people to know that this movie knows exactly what it is and exactly what it's trying to be, which is just entertaining. But even with that said, this movie is not gonna be for everyone, but god damn it was this movie for me. And I think it's gonna be for a lot of other people as well. I have a really strong feeling that Malignant is gonna gather a big cult following. And I'm not saying that this is a perfect movie. It's got plenty of problems. I will say the movie does have some major plot points that aren't really explained or even addressed at all by the end, with the more supernatural elements that deal with electricity. Like, this movie already challenges how far your suspension of disbelief can go, and then it adds this whole other element on top of it and then doesn't explain it at all. So that specific element of the movie was just a little bit too much for me, but it at least led to some really cool moments in the different set pieces and some dope visuals. Like, I enjoyed its inclusion, I just wish it had some sort of explanation. And like I said, the film starts off pretty rough and takes a bit of time to really hit its stride, but once it did, I was along for the ride, and that's really what this movie is. I swear I had a huge smile on my face for the entire third act. James Wan does a phenomenal job as director once again and gives us a horror movie with a really unique concept that was just a blast for me personally. I don't even know how to rate this thing, to be honest. I guess critically, with all of its flaws, I would give Malignant a B. And this is the definition of a B horror movie, by the way. But with the amount of fun that I had with this movie, especially with the ending, I just want to give it so much more praise. So I guess just in terms of my personal enjoyment of Malignant, based on that, I'm gonna give it an A-. So there you go, one movie, two grades. I had a lot of thoughts about this film, if you couldn't tell, and I want to hear yours too, so let me know down in the comments, what did you think of Malignant? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was the ending way too much for you, or did it hit just all the right spots? But just try not to spoil it for the people who didn't see it yet. And while you're down there, if you could do me one more huge favor and like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, that would help me out so much with getting my videos out to a bigger audience. Once again, my name is Murdock, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.